guys, welcome to the channel. My name's Christy. I'm here with my husband Lee, just off camera. Today we're going to be answering some questions that we get asked all the time about my accident. I know one of the questions I get asked all the time is, how did it happen? So we're going to talk about that and just take you through the day of my accident where I was internally decapitated. The day of the wreck was beautiful, just like it is today. It's gorgeous out here. The weather was almost
identical.
Yeah, almost identical to this. You were away on a camping trip in Piedmont, which how far away were you?
From here, about 45 minutes.
About 45 minutes. We had just bought a new motorcycle after not riding for a few years, and it was a Harley Davidson Fat Boy, which is a big bike, and I had not ridden it by myself yet, but I was so excited and I wanted to be smart about it, so I asked my dad to ride over and to go for a ride with me. And my dad came over, we hop on our bikes, and my sister follows us, and we go to eat at a local barbecue restaurant. And I remember ordering a barbecue sandwich for my mother-in-law who lives with us, and I put it in my saddlebag and it rode around with me, and obviously didn't make it home or we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it. But it's just kind of funny to think back on. But I remember everything going well on the ride. I didn't have any issues. I wasn't completely comfortable because it was a new bike to me and it had been a while since I rode, but everything was going fine. I was just trying to be super aware of everything and super careful about, especially slower speeds. Anybody that rides knows that slow speed riding is the hardest. So that's what I was mostly worried about, and I was glad my dad was there in case, I got in a weird spot and, maybe drop the bike and I wouldn't be able to pick it up by myself. I was trying to be responsible by not going out alone, and turns out that was the right call if I was gonna do that.
Yeah, the last thing I told you before you left the house, you got hurt on me, I was gonna kick your butt.
So we went over Cheetah Mountain, which is local to us. It's the tallest mountain in Alabama. It's a hot spot for motorcycle riders, campers. It's a beautiful park. I've been up on that park many times. We love to camp there. I'm very familiar with it. And I remember, I can remember passing the state park, seeing it go by on my left, and I remember there were a bunch of people out in the parking lot, and I remember looking over at them and noticing them. And then the last thing I remember is, and it's almost like a dream when I think about it, but everything was so fast. It's such a short amount of time, but in my mind it seems like forever. I remember the road curving to the left. I remember seeing a sharp curve, and I went into the curve, and the last thing I remember is I remember seeing a guardrail on the right, and I just remember thinking, oh crap, I'm not gonna make the curve. And my only thought was, this is gonna hurt. I never thought I was gonna die or have the injuries I ended up with. I just knew it was gonna hurt, and then that was it. Had I died on that guardrail like I should have, it would have been instant and peaceful, I can say that. It was like turning off a light switch, and that was it until somebody turned my switch back on, and that's when the hard part
When did the lights come back on?
I don't think they fully came back on for probably days.
Right into the rail.
Oh, the pavement's actually chipped right there.
Yeah. You hit right here between these marks. Actually, that's where you came to rest. This is where you hit. You can see your skid mark, your scratches start. And you came to rest here, between these two white marks. And that black line is where the bike went all around. The last time it touched the guardrail, I think this was the one where it hit the tank came from. And then it just bounced off and it went all around the curve.
So my wreck lasted from like right there all the way.
5 feet past that first white mark.
Wow.
But you came from that chipped asphalt straight into the guardrail. You didn't drift into it. You were in the curve and you drove straight into the guardrail.
How does it feel for you coming out here?
Oh, I hate it. I'm just glad it's the way it is.
My first memory, and I've told you about this, is very foggy, and I can just remember opening my eyes, seeing the sky, and I feel like I was laying on the ground, kind of half on the road, half in the grass, under near the guardrail. And I remember, for some reason, I wasn't able to open my mouth. I remember that. I remember I couldn't open my, like, just a little bit. And I was screaming, but, and I'm not sure if it was pain or, I don't know why I was screaming. I don't remember pain in that. I'm sure I was in pain, but I don't remember pain in that moment. I remember not being able to open my mouth. I remember being aware that I was hurt really bad. I knew it was bad, and I could hear myself screaming, and I was aware that it didn't sound like a normal scream. It was very squealy, like a piglet is what I remember. And you said that
I could hear it.
You could hear it on the phone, yeah. So it took a while for that memory to come, and when it did, I told him, and he confirmed that I wasn't dreaming, that I did remember that correctly because he could hear it. I briefly remember the back of an ambulance, but it just for a second. And then I remember on the helicopter, I remember seeing trees going by. So my dad was in front of me and I was behind him, and he went on around the curve. I slowed down. He was going well, we weren't going fast, but he was a little bit faster than I wanted to go, and I remember backing off a little bit. And so he said that he saw my headlight come around the corner, and then he started seeing the bike do this and then fall over, and realized that I wasn't on it. And I think he even dropped his bike.
When he got back to you, he dropped it at your bike and then started looking for you and realized you were 60 feet farther up the road on the guardrail. The bike made the curve without you.
Yeah. My dad found me. I was still on the guardrail. I was slumped over, hanging on the guardrail, not breathing. So nobody knows exactly what happened. Nobody knows exactly what my body did during the wreck, because I had so many injuries. The main one is called an AOD, Atlanto-occipital dislocation, also called internal decapitation. So when I talk about it, I'm going to call it AOD because it's easier to say than internal decapitation. But what caused it was basically at some point the guardrail stopped me, and I have a big scar across my stomach where I hit the guardrail, but my helmet and the momentum my body had, so my head with the weight of my helmet kept going like that, and it pulled my head off my spine. It should have killed me instantly. I think that Google said 70% of people die immediately.
Your neurosurgeon said 3 to 5 millimeters of separation is usually fatal. You had 13 to 15.
Yeah.
That's why you're legally 1.5 inches taller now than you were before.
Yeah. But I also had so with an AOD, the internal decapitation, it separated my head from my spine, but it also tore my carotid arteries, my vertebral arteries. That alone, I should have bled out from that. Nobody can explain how I didn't bleed out, but when we look at pictures and I look at my neck, it's like it's massive from all of the bleeding and stuff.
You were saying you were not exactly sure what happened, and you told them about the stripe across your belly. No one truly knows what exactly happened, but the leading theory, the most sensible thing is you hit the guardrail with that right leg, and it caught is the reason it broke it up so bad. Mm-hmm. But that leg caught and pulled you off the bike. The bike just bounced off the guardrail and kept going. It made the curve without you. But the leading theory is that when you come off the bike, you tumbled at least once, which accounts for the bruising on your belly,
all the ribs,
the broken ribs on the left side and the back, and your L3, 4, 5 fractures. And so the leading theory is you made at least one revolution.
Yeah, so I didn't just hit it and stop.
No, you rolled
I
down
got snatched off, broke my leg, tumbled down probably, and
when you come to a stop,
came to rest hanging on the guardrail.
Yeah, but once your belly hit and locked and stopped you, that's when your head and your helmet tried to keep going. That's where the injury came from.
Yeah. I guess one of the questions I had for you, so you got to the hospital and they told you that I was really bad, and then they come back out and told you what my injury was.
I stood there for probably 45 minutes when the man come out looking for somebody with you, and I said it was me. He said, all right. He said, we're trying to get everything squared away. Obviously it was COVID time, so I wasn't allowed in the hospital, not in the waiting room or anything. We had to sit outside. And he come out and told me that you were very sick and critical, but at the moment you were stable. And they had a few things to do, and they would come back and get me and eventually let me see you. I said, okay. And he went back inside. Then your family showed up, and we didn't see anybody for another 2.5 hours. And then he finally come and got me and carried me in to see the neurosurgeon that was on call that night. I don't remember her name, really nice lady. And she carried me to a family room, which I knew then was not a good start. But she told me what was wrong, and she told me you had an AOD, and I told her I knew what that was. And she explained to me that right now you were awake, alert, ANO3, and all 4 limbs worked, but they had to stabilize you now that they knew exactly what was wrong. So they had to put you in your halo before they would let me come in and see you.
Wow.
So they said it'll be a little bit, and I went back out in the parking lot with your family. 15 minutes they come and got me. They already had that thing on in that shorter period of time. And you were
could have at least got the hole straight.
Yeah, that would have been nice. But I got to come in and talk to you for a few minutes, and I thought it was quite funny that you would not let the nurses sedate you until you got to talk to me. That was cute. I appreciate that.
We found out later from a ER nurse that after they intubated me, they put the tube down so that they could put me on the ventilator. I refused sedation because I wanted to see my husband, and so apparently I have a rare talent of handling a ET tube without sedation and being able to talk over it.
25 years as a paramedic, I've never seen anybody could talk with an ET tube in their mouth. She sounded quite well.
So, something I wanted to ask you, when you first saw me in the ER, when you got to finally see me, did you feel better? Did you feel more scared? Like, what were you thinking?
No, I definitely felt better because knowing what an AOD is, when you're looking at me, talking to me sensibly, noticeably moving all your limbs. You even moved the broke leg when I was in there and realized how bad it hurt. So then we all know, of course, you have feeling below the waist and everything.
Yeah.
Now, granted, most of them go sour on the table of the ones that survive, and we were all aware of that, but it was very comforting to see you then, to know that you were still Christian and you were still functioning.
So y'all were aware that when I was going to go into surgery, there was a good chance I wasn't going to come out like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was a high probability of it, and that was explained to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not only by the neurosurgeon on call, but Dr. Godzik explained to me in detail the next day before he actually did the surgery. And that's why you had to be stabilized where you were. He tried to reduce the amount of separation, and every time he did, your vital signs would start crashing, and he had to stabilize you where it was because he just couldn't reduce it anymore.
I remember being in the ER, and I can remember hearing people behind me and like on my left, and I can remember the flight crew giving report, and I just remember them saying that they had given me Zofran and fentanyl, and I had been, when we landed at UAB, I started projectile vomiting everywhere, like all over the medic, exorcist type projectile vomiting, and I just had that barbecue sandwich.
And as gross as it was kind of humorous, especially for people in our line of work. When I did finally get to come in and see you, you're laying there with your halo on and pretty blue eyes looking at me, and there was barbecue everywhere. 9:45, 10 a.m. the next morning is when Dr. Godzik started the surgery.
I guess.
And they wouldn't let any of us in the hospital because of COVID, so we all sat in the parking deck waiting on you to get out of surgery.
That was something that I wouldn't say shocked me, but made me definitely reflect more on, because everybody always, well, how's Christy? What happened to Christy? But that's why I'm so glad you're here, because there's so much more than just my side. There's what you went through, what my dad went through, what he's still going through because he was there.
I can't imagine what he went through and what it was like for him, because the worst realization I had was the next day while you were in surgery. Granted, I had taken off to go camping, and that was your off day, so you went riding because I wasn't home. Had I gone to work and you went riding, that was B shift in Cleveland County. It was the first call of the day, and I was up for first call of the day that day. Had I been at work, I would have run the call. You'd have been my patient. Mixed emotions. I would love to have been there to know how well you're taken care of, but at the same time, to have to be there and do that's a different level of hard. I would not want to do that.
So you're glad you weren't there.
Yes, especially now I know how well you were taken care of. Yes, I'm very glad I wasn't there.
So is there anything that you can think of that you could say to anybody else who maybe has a family member who's currently in a situation like that, that's, they don't know the outcome, their loved one's unstable and how any
Talk-
advice that you
Talk
have.
to your friends, talk to your family, stay off the internet. Don't be reading the possibilities and assuming where it's going to go because you just don't know. Yours is a perfect example. Nothing should have turned out positive in that, and it did. Don't let the internet screw you in the ground emotionally. Talk to your friends and your loved ones and your family as we go, and take it day by day.
Thanks for going on this journey with us today. If you are someone that has found yourself in a recent accident and you don't know what your future holds, we just have to stick together and lean on people when we need to and take care of ourselves, talk to people. Lots more coming your way. I hope you'll stick around and as we tell this crazy story of ours. Bye.